Today we're going to be drawing an exterior cityscape using the geometric form of a rectangular prism to create the buildings, and then also drawing details like cars, traffic signs, and streets and sidewalks into one-point perspective. So we start off just like we would with a normal abstract perspective drawing with a horizon line. You may want to put this up just a little bit higher than the middle, but it's totally up to you as the artist where you want to put it. And then we're going to put our vanishing point. You can either put it in the middle, or I'd recommend way off to one side or the other. I'm going to go ahead and put mine right in the middle. Make sure it's on your horizon line. Now to draw buildings, which is going to be our first step, you're going to start off with a rectangle. Now remember, the horizon line is your viewer's eye line, so your building you're going to want to start the rectangle below the horizon and end it above the horizon line, because none of our viewers are going to be taller than the buildings that we're looking at. So I'm going to start off with a rectangle. And that's my main shape. It's the face of the shape closest to me as the viewer. And it's okay if you have some lines going a little bit farther than you want them. You can always erase them. Okay, so I have my shape. I'm going to go ahead and do another shape just so that I have a few buildings to start off with. This one's going to be a little bit smaller and farther in the distance. Notice I'm using my simple perspective rules. The base of my rectangle is higher up compared to this one down over here. So that tells me that it's farther away. And also my rectangle is smaller, so that also helps us know that it's farther away. Maybe I'll do one more building. Now we may have a little bit of overlap, and it's okay if you have a building that the edge goes off the page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that tells the viewer that it's really close to us. Okay, now before I go ahead and connect to my vanishing point, I'm going to erase the horizon line behind my buildings because I don't want it. It's just going to save me some erasing later. Alright. Now any details that I want to put on the front of my buildings, like doors or windows, I can just do whatever shape windows or doors. I don't have to worry about them going in perspective. So if I want a circular window on my building, I can draw a circular window. I can use a compass or I can freehand it. And if I want a rectangular door, which most doors are, the more precise you can be with your shapes, the more realistic they're going to appear. So the details on the front of my buildings, closest to the viewer, don't have anything to do with the horizon and the vanishing point. However, if I'm going to put them on the side of my building, going back into the distance, I do have to consider my vanishing point. So let's go ahead and draw the side of our shapes. Remember, I connect the corner of my forms to the vanishing point. And I'm not going to connect all the way back to my vanishing point. They line up, but I'm not going to draw that line going all the way back into the distance. That way I don't have so much erasing to do. Alright, so there are my lines going back off into the distance. Remember, I don't connect these corners because as I start drawing those lines, they go through my original shape. So I don't want to do that. My buildings are not see-through, so we wouldn't see those. Okay. Now the back edge of my buildings are just going to be a vertical line because the front corner of my building between these two diagonals is also a vertical line. So between this line and this line, on the front edge of my shape is a vertical. So it's a vertical on the back as well. Now I'm going to draw this line here, and you can see it overlaps my original shape. So anything inside here that's a horizon line or another shape, I'm going to erase, as well as my extra lines going back towards the vanishing point because I don't need those anymore. Now again, because this building overlaps this building, I'm going to erase all of that. Okay, so I have a few buildings in one-point linear perspective. Now, if I want to draw details on the sides of my buildings, say I want to add doors or windows, and they have vertical and horizontal lines, I have to think about what direction they're going to go. Any vertical line that you have. They do not change at all. So all your vertical lines will stay vertical in perspective. And when I say in perspective, that means on this side of your form. This is the front, this is the side. Front, side. Anytime we're on the side in perspective, your vertical lines stay the same, just like they would on the front. However, horizontal lines if it's a left to right line like it would be on the front of your shape, that has to connect to the vanishing point. Okay, so if we're going in perspective, if I have the sides of my door, they're a vertical line, so I'm going to put sides of a door on the side of this building. They're vertical lines. But the top of my door is a horizontal left to right line, so that line actually has to go back towards my vanishing point. Now I only have to draw it between these two vertical lines because that's the sides of my door, there's the top. And then I can erase my extra lines. So there's my door in perspective. Alright, the same is going to apply to windows. If you have a window, the sides, vertical lines of your window are going to be vertical. The top and the bottom, because they are a left to right line, and they are on the perspective side of your object, are going to go back towards your vanishing point. But I only draw them between those two lines to save me some erasing. Okay, and then if you divide it into smaller panes, vertical lines go vertical, horizontal lines go back to the vanishing point. Okay, so there are some buildings and some details. This would apply to brick, it would apply to siding, any shapes or even posters or details you would put on the sides of your buildings will go, if it's on the side, your horizontal lines go back towards the vanishing point. Okay, now let's talk about roads. If the road is a left to right road, okay, it's going to be parallel to the horizon line. So if I have a road here or a sidewalk, it's just going to be a left to right line. However, if I have a road going away from me as the viewer, it's going to go towards my vanishing point. So if I have a road in between these two rows of buildings, it's going to go off into the distance towards my vanishing point. Okay, that's the same, goes the same for any details like stripes or dots down the middle, and any sidewalks. It's either going to be a left to right line. I'm going to wrap this around the building back here. Or it's going to go back towards your vanishing point. Now if you have road signs, they're going to basically follow the rules of simple perspective. For example, I'm going to freehand a little stop sign here. Okay, I have the pole. You could use your ruler to make that straight line, but my stop sign here is pretty tall. If I'm going to draw a stop sign back here, it's going to be smaller. Okay, now we can use regular perspective, linear perspective as well, but we're just going to eyeball it for today. Okay, so there's some street signs. Now if you want a more advanced shape, kind of like a car, kind of think of it how it would look as a box. Okay, so I like to draw my cars kind of very boxy actually. So I'm going to start off with small rectangle, and that's going to represent the front of my car, the front bumper of my car. Okay, and I'm going to draw it kind of like stacked boxes. So I'm going to draw my corners going back towards my vanishing point. That's the front bumper of my car. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Okay, so this would be the hood of my car. Again, it's very boxy. That's okay. I'm going to go back in and round it out in a second. But I'm going to draw this as just a box to start off with. Okay, now I know that my car needs wheels, and they're going to be on the side, and they're just going to be little circles. I'm not going to get too crazy about super detailed right now. But the front of my car should be bigger than the back of my car, so the front wheel should be bigger than the back, and it's just a little oval when it's turned in perspective. Okay, now if I do the top of my car or the windshield of my car, I'm going to do that as another box. Start as a rectangle. Okay, and I realize that windshields are slanted, but again, just for our perspective purposes, while we're learning, we're going to do them as simple forms as possible. So start as my box, connect back to the vanishing point. Whoops, and finish off the back end of my box. Didn't quite connect it quite right. It's okay. Okay, and then I have what looks like a very simple car. If I wanted to go back in and add some details like headlights or bumpers or a grill. Kind of looks like a Jeep. Okay, not the prettiest, but just to get the concept of perspective. So good luck drawing your cityscape in 1-point perspective.